Shabbos Daf Chav, we learned in the Mishnah that Erev Shabbos, one is not permitted to roast meat, eggs, onions, unless you're able to roast it before Shabbos. What does that mean? Kemachal ben drusai, it's a shear. According to Rashi, it means a third done. According to the Rambam, 50% done. Once we're talking about kemachal ben drusai, there's a few kulas. Number one, once the food reaches kemachal ben drusai, according to Rashi, it's a third done. There's no more issue of bishul akum. A guy could take on the cooking from that point. And according to Chananya, there's no iser shihiyah. Once your food reaches a third done, you can leave it on the flame when Shabbos comes in, and we're not worried about shihiyah, even though you don't have grufa ktuma, you didn't remove the coals, and you didn't sprinkle the coals with ashes. We learned in the Mishnah you don't put bread into the oven before Shabbos, unless karmu panel. It has a nice color. According to Tanakh, it means the outside of the bread. According to Lezer, it means not only the outside, but also the part that lays on the oven. As we learned yesterday, a young goat, if you introduce air, oxygen, into the oven, it will ruin the meat. So therefore, we're not concerned they're going to open up the oven door and stoke the coals. Yet, when it comes to Korban Pesach, we say that you are allowed to put a Korban Pesach on a spit into the oven because you are part of a group. And the group is going to remind each other not to stoke the coals. But what happened to the reason that oxygen is not good for the meat? The answer is because Korban Pesach is a whole goat. It's not cut up into pieces. It's also. So therefore, the air and the oxygen doesn't cause any harm, and it would be a concern, but because you have other people there, it's not a concern. We learned in the Mishnah that in Beis HaMoiked, there's a fire to warm the Kohanim's feet. You're allowed to start the fire right before Shabbos, even though you don't have most of the wood burning. But outside of the Beis HaMikdash, that's not allowed. What is the reason? So one reason given by Rav Huna is because it says that there's no isser to light the fire on Shabbos in the Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara has a bomb kasha on Rav Huna. Rav Chizda says is because Kohanim's reason. Beautiful Rashi here. The Kohanim are all b'nei Torah, and they're very careful with the mitzvahs, and we're not concerned. And the pasuk is referring to haktar sevarim v'chalavim, that you're allowed to burn. They're allowed to burn on Shabbos on the mizbeach. But outside of the Beis Hamikdash, the shear is that it has to grab most of the wood. What does that mean? According to Rav, it means most of the pieces of wood. Every piece of wood, you have to have a majority of that piece on fire. And according to Shmuel, it just means that it caught on enough that you don't have to bring small pieces of wood to create a flame. Now, we have a great raya for Shmuel because it says by the menorah that you have to light the wick enough that the flame should go by itself. In other words, that it doesn't have any help from the outside. If you're lighting one piece of wood, so according to Rav, it has to be that the fire catches on most of the circumference. Another pshat is most of the actual piece of wood, the thickness of the wood, the flame has to go through the wood. So Rav Papa says, if so, let's do both. Most of the thickness and the circumference. Yahayakim burnt Megillas Eicha, and it says in the pasuk, Ve'es ha'ach l'fanav mevares. Rav says that means an arava tree, and Shmuel says that they were together. It's a lashon of achva. So we have a three-way machlokes here. Reads that our individuals, they don't need roiv. They're easy to catch flame, according to Rav Huna. And if they're in a bundle, they need that the majority of it should light up. Rav Chizda says the exact opposite. That if they're individuals, they need a roiv, and when they're together, since they're together, it's easier for them to catch on flames. And Rav Kahana says, like Rav Huna in this case. When it comes to pits, so Rav Huna says the same thing by Kanim, that when they're individuals, they don't need a roiv, and when they're together in a vessel, in a basket, they need roiv. Rav Chizda says the exact opposite. And Rav Kahana in this case says like Rav Chizda. These are things that don't need roiv, majority fire. We're talking about zefet, which is pitch, tar, gofris is sulfur, gvina, cheese, revav is grease, kash, straw, and gvava is stubble. Rabbi Yochanan says that the trees of Bavel don't need. And what is that? Rav Yosef says, as we're going to see later on, it's a branch of a cedar tree that's dry and thin, and it has like a woolly substance that can catch flame. But it doesn't mean that it's cut into small pieces, because Ula says that even a Shabbos candle, you have to light it and make sure that's lit, the majority of it, and therefore small pieces doesn't help. And Rami Barabba says that we're referring to Zaza. Zaza is moss. And with that, we finish the first parak of Masechta Shabbos, a tremendous mazel tov, Hadron Alach Yitzios HaShabbos, and now we're going to start parak B'Mem Adlikin. You cannot light with the wick of lechesh, which is, like we just discussed, the wool that is found in a cedar tree. And you can't light with chosin. According to Rav Yosef, it's the small pieces of flax. According to Abaya, it's flax that wasn't combed. And v'loy b'kolach. So Shmuel asked, and Nechuti Yami asked them, what is it? They told him it's kulcha. It's a woolly substance. Cisaros, something like that. Rav Yosef about Zeira says it's gushkira. It's a very inferior type of silk that comes from a silkworm. They call it flaw silk. Ravin says no, it's a good grade of silk. It says in the Mishnah, Lepsil Sa'idan, which means achvina, which is like the woolly substance from a willow tree. And Ravin showed Abaya. Abaya says, that tree, a willow tree? Yeah, no, but he pulled it apart and he showed him, look, there's a substance, like almost like a wool in there that catches on fire. It says, V'loy b'psil samidbar, shavra, which is nettle grass. They braid it and they make wicks out of it. V'loy bi yeroik al pnei hamayim. That's not referring to algae, but rather it's referring to the moss. Now, some people added hair and wool, but our Tana says that hair and wool are not added because wool actually shrinks and hair burns. Now from here on out are the oils that you're not to light with. You can't light with tar, which is pitch, and shava is wax. But if you make a candle out of the wax, since this is in the category of oils, but not the category of wicks, so you're allowed to, and you're permitted to use, as we do today, to make a candle out of wax. Have a wonderful day.